Welcome to First Page Fridays. I'm April Dávila for Sit Right Here, and today we're going to look at somebody's first page. Could be a novel, could be a short story. I don't really know. I haven't looked at it yet, but we're going to read through it, and then I'm going to edit it the way that I would edit it if I was working with a client, so you can see the changes that I would suggest, and also the way that someone who is a professional, say like an agent or a publisher, is going to look at your first page. And thank you to our writers who have submitted. If you would like to submit your first page, there's a link below in the show notes here. You can send that in. We'll put you in the queue, and maybe next time it's yours. Until then, we will learn from this generous author who has shared their work with us. I'm going to shrink myself down here. I do my best with pronunciation, so I always have to put that caveat out there. I apologize. I'm doing my best. And I may stumble a little because I haven't read this yet. Okay. Ronan, I'm going to assume that's rounded. Ronan rounded the final corner of the canyon with his older brother a few paces in front. He saw their commander waiting at the crumbling rock archway, his broad chest and tree trunk arms almost blocking the way. As the boys came into his view, the commander broke into a wide smile. Who will it be today, boys? Oh, and I should note that our system, when you submit, it tends to take out carriage returns. So I'm going to assume that there were certain breaks in here that just got lost. Who will be today, boys? He shouted out to them. Ronan picked up speed. Xanon, catching him out of the corner of his eye, did likewise, kicking up more sand. Ronan had saved his energy, letting his brother be out front the whole run. Now he was ready for the final sprint. As Ronan caught up and looked to pass in the narrowing canyon, they began jostling each other. Ronan was just past his brother and looking at an open finish line before him when Xanon body-checked his lighter frame into the canyon wall and surged ahead. Ronan hit the wall, rolled, and pushed off, recovering quickly. He ran through the archway, second place again. Ah, good finish, boys. The commander clapped his hands. He hit Ronan on the back. You're close today, Ronan. I thought you had it. Then he turned and grabbed Xanon's shoulder. Great job, Xanon. Always press every advantage you have. Xanon was gasping for air, bent over, but looking up, grinning at the commander and then over at Ronan. Ronan stood tall with his hands on his waist, taking deep, steady breaths, nodding in annoyed acceptance of his defeat. Okay, so I'm going to put in a few carriage returns here. I would probably put one here. Okay, so let's come back up here. Let's fix this to rounded. All right, we have an interesting story of brothers competing, fighting hard for the win here. We don't really get a whole lot of context in terms of like where they are, bigger story, but we do know they're in this canyon. Now, I will acknowledge that I bring my bias to this. I live in Southern California, so canyon to me is desert. I'm picturing like sandy walls, right? We get canyon wall. We don't, but I wonder, is this, I wonder if you can give us a couple details about, am I right? Because people will bring their own assumptions of what the canyon looks like. Are there like trees lining the top of the canyon? Like maybe it's more of a lush, maybe this is more like a Colorado canyon where, yes, it's steep, but there's forest up above. I don't know. It may not be that important for this opening page, but if you can find a place to drop in a hint or two. I guess there's also the commander's waiting for that at a crumbling rock archway. So again, my brain is going to like Zion, right? The national park, like just north or northeast of Grand Canyon, just how wonderful arches, desert. Okay, so my first question on this is point of view. It seems to bounce around a little bit. I'm not exactly, we start with Ronan, which is great. So I'm assuming this is Ronan's story, especially since he's the one who's kind of getting picked on. Like I'm already hoping like this guy is able to like step up and be the boss. Ronan rounded the final corner of the canyon. I wonder if there's a better word than corner. Corner feels very man-made. Yeah, I'll leave it for now, but consider that. And remember, I'm super nitpicky on this kind of, especially like this is a good first page. So the better a page is, the more I feel like I can get a little nitpicky. So I might choose a different word for corner. With his older brother a few paces in front, he saw their commander waiting at the crumbling rock archway, his broad chest and tree trunk arms almost blocking the way. Okay, I love this. I love that we get commander. We don't really get much about him, but broad chest and tree trunk arms, that fits with what I would expect of a commander. Almost blocking the way is a little interesting in that he's waiting for them, but how can he be waiting for them and blocking the way to him? So the wording on that's a little awkward. I would say almost filling the narrow gap between the walls of the canyon. Canyon. As the boys, so something like that. Final, I'm not sure what word to put in here. I was thinking I might fix it, but I'm going to leave that to you, author, because you have an image in your mind of what it looks like. He saw their commander waiting at the crumbling rock archway, his broad chest and tree trunk arms almost filling the narrow gap between the walls of the canyon. I think you can, that for me, that paints his metaphor almost like a silhouette, right? He is the end. He is what they're racing at. As the boys came into his view. So here's where we switch a little bit. We're almost into his point of view. As the boys came into his view, the commander broke into a wide smile. So since we don't know his view, I'm going to assume we're staying in Ronan's point of view. I might change it to the commander broke into a wide smile when he saw them. Because when he saw them. That is something that, if you're in Ronan's point of view, you could look up and you could see the commander break into a wide smile. You can't, as Ronan, know at what, when does he actually see them? Is it the moment he comes around the corner, or is there I don't know. I think just to stay more solidly in Ronan's point of view, we want to see what he can observe. So the commander broke into a wide smile when he saw them. Who will be today, boys? He shouted out to them. Ronan picked up speed, and I would probably break this up. Xanon catching him out of the corner of his eye. Okay, so again, here's a point of view. If we're in Ronan's head, and again, I'm making assumption, if this is more of what's it called? Omniscient narrator, then jumping around makes sense. But even with omniscient, you want to be very intentional about how you move from head to head. So this to me is a little bit like head hopping, right? We're in Ronan, and then we're kind of in the commander, and then we're back in Ronan, and then we're in Xanon. And so there's no reason you can't have more of an omniscient narrator. But if that's the case, and it's truly omniscient, it means that they're not inside any of the characters. So even that omniscient narrator wouldn't really know what Xanon is seeing. If it's the kind of omniscient that jumps from narrator to narrator, you need to slow it down a little bit. Stay with Ronan for a while and then make the switch really obvious and intentional to Xanon, in a different scene. When you jump from head to head in the same scene, it just confuses the reader. So those are your options. I'm going to just edit this as if we are in Ronan's perspective, third person close. So Ronan picked up speed. He doesn't know what Xanon can see. So I would just take this out. Xanon did likewise, kicking up more sand. Ronan had saved his energy, letting his brother be out front the whole run. Now he was ready for the final sprint. As Ronan caught up, okay, so I think I would have he pushed his last bit of energy into his legs. Now, again, this is me, right? You need to write this as you would write it, but I think you need a moment here of from when he's ready to when he catches up. There needs to be a little something to connect those two thoughts. So, and also, now is always a tricky word when you're in past tense. I'm going to just take it out. It bothers me, the word now, when you're writing in past tense. Because you're not in the now, you're in the then. Okay, he had saved his energy, letting his brother be out front the whole time. There's some opportunity here, the whole run. There's some opportunity here to tell us how long they have been running. If this was a 100-meter sprint through a canyon, that's very different than an all-day marathon, right? So what is the whole run? And then it also allows you to kind of break up the wording a little bit, just run. So let's see here. I'm making things up. It's not my story. You have to make it your story, but just as an example, he'd saved his energy, letting his brother be out front. for the last 15 miles. He was ready for the final sprint. He pushed his last bit of energy into his legs as Ronan caught up and looked to pass. I would say, as Ronan caught up and looked to pass in the narrowing canyon. Looked kind of threw me here, because it's not an actual like looking. This is an intention, right? As Ronan moved, I would just say as Ronan moved to pass in the narrowing canyon, they began jostling each other. Now, began to is always kind of a weird word, right? Tell us what's actually happening. So as Ronan moved to pass, his shoulder brushed against his brother's. Like their shoulders are bumping, their elbows are hitting. Like I'm gonna say his shoulder brushed. Shoulder brushed up against Xanan's. Maybe their elbows. I don't know. I'll just leave it as shoulders, but like instead of they began to kind of bunch up against each other, like show us like what's happening in fact in that moment. Keep us in the moment. Ronan was just past his brother and looking at an open finish line. Okay. I would say at a clear path. Well, that's open finish line. Okay. But it's not really a finish line so much as just getting to the commander, right? I mean, I guess it's metaphorical. You can leave that. I would say instead of just past, a few steps, like let's be specific, ahead of his brother and looking open finish line before an open finish line when Xanan body checked his lighter frame. As Ronan moved to pass in the narrowing canyon, his shoulder brushed up against Xanan's. Ronan was a few steps ahead of his brother and looking at an open finish line when Xanan body checked his lighter frame into the canyon wall. Okay, so he can't be a few steps ahead, right? Because Xanan can't body check him if Ronan has actually taken the lead. So I would say and actually say here, his shoulder brushed up against Xanan's. I would just say without warning, or in that moment, Xanan body checked his, and I think the pronouns are always the Ronan's. Without warning, Xanan body checked Ronan's lighter frame. So don't give it a pause, right? Like Ronan is moving to pass, his shoulder to shoulder with Xanan. Without warning, Xanan body checks Ronan's lighter frame into the canyon wall and surges ahead. Well, surged. He body checked, past tense here. Ronan hit the wall, rolled, and pushed off the ground, recovering quickly. He ran through the archway, second place again. I know this is, I would just say taking second place again. Okay, and so let's see here. Yeah, good finish, boys. The commander clapped his hands. He hit Ronan on the back. You were close today, Ronan. I thought you had it. Then he turned and grabbed Xanan's shoulder. Great job, Xanan. Always press every advantage you have. Okay, so the cool thing about this is that it's telling us a lot about this world that they're living in. It's interesting that they're the only two boys running. Or are there more boys that are further back? Are there any women or girls in this world? If it's just the two of them and the commander, I'm definitely curious, like what is happening here? Why are just these two boys in some sort of military training ground? So if you have opportunity to give us any context, it might help the reader land in the story a little bit, but I will say I'm intrigued. I have a younger sister who's very close, and I totally understand the sibling rivalry. Like for me, this is definitely just the question of like, will Ronan ever be able to like step up and be equal to Xanan is enough curiosity for me to turn the page for now. And then I'd be, you've pulled me in enough that then you can let the story unfurl. It's a good little opening bit of action. Xanan was gasping for air, bent over, but looking So he's bent over, but looking up, grinning at the commander. And I would actually break this up. And then the more you can do like past tense, like straight up past tense, better than he looked up, grinning at the commander, and then over at Ronan. Ronan stood tall with his hands on his waist, taking deep, steady breaths, nodding in annoyed acceptance of his defeat. So another interesting detail that like Xanon is bent over, huffing and puffing, and Ronan's standing tall, which to me kind of was like Ronan could have gone harder if he, I don't know. Okay, so let's read this again from the top. Ronan rounded the final corner of the canyon with his older brother a few paces in front. He saw their commander waiting at the crumbling rock archway, his broad chest and tree trunk arms almost filling the narrow gap between the walls of the canyon. Again, and if you could give us a little bit of detail on the surroundings, like is it canyons in a forest? Is it a canyon in a forest, canyon in the desert? The archway definitely points towards desert. So if that's landing, if it is desert, then you're cool. The commander broke into a wide smile when he saw them. "Who will it be today, boys?" he shouted out to them. Ronan picked up speed. Xanon did likewise, kicking up more sand. Ronan had saved his energy, letting his brother be out front for the last 15 miles. Again, I'm making this up. You have to make this, whatever it is. He was ready for the final sprint. He pushed his last bit of energy into his legs, so added this to connect the ideas. As Ronan moved to pass in the narrowing canyon, his shoulder brushed up against Xanon's. You might even have another detail here. Maybe he could hear Xanon's breath, right? Just a few of those sensory details. Maybe he smells his sweat. Without warning, Xanon body checked Ronan's lighter frame into the canyon wall and surged ahead. Ronan hit the wall, rolled. We already said into the wall, so Ronan rolled and pushed off the ground, recovering quickly. He ran through the archway, taking second place again. "Ah, good finish, boys." The commander clapped his hands, hit Ronan on the back. "You were close today, Ronan. I thought you had it." Then he turned and grabbed Xanon's shoulder. "Great job today." Okay. So yeah, I think this is really solid. The other thing I would encourage you to consider just looking at is, can you tell us, other than the fact that Ronan is lighter than his brother, we don't get any details about them other than the fact that they're male. So I wonder, like, could you give us a sense of their height? Can you give us a sense of their age? How old are they? Are they boys or are they young men or are they older men? I mean, they don't read as older men. They read as boys, given that the commander's calling them boys. But are they 8 and 9 or are they 18 and 19? I don't know if there's some way to hint. If you can't get it in on this first page, get it in soon. Because in my mind, I'm picturing them as 18, 19. Because I don't know, I don't know why younger boys would be in like with a commander necessarily, but I also don't know what genre this is. If this is like a dystopian fantasy, maybe they are younger. Maybe this is a like, I don't know, race to who gets beat up later today kind of thing. Yeah, so just looking for any opportunity you can to get a detail or two in about who the boys are would be great. But all in all, this is a really solid first page, and I am definitely intrigued. I would keep reading. So thank you so much to the author who sent this in. And if you would like your page to be edited, check out the link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next Friday.